Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the San Luis Obispo Real Estate Podcast with the team. Mr. Sweasey, Mr. Turner, how are you guys doing today?
Great.
Awesome.
Great. Yeah, I like
College football bowl season.
Happy New Year.
Yes,
Happy New Year, everybody. Hal, did you do anything special when we were on break here? Bowl game?
Bowl game, yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that pretty fun?
Yeah. Except for the outcome, it was a blast. It was great.
So
yeah.
it didn't go your way.
it.
It didn't go your... JT, what about you? What'd you do holidays? Anything fun?
Granddaughter. She visited, 3 years old. It was awesome.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Does she have a Rain Spooner shirt?
She has a Rain Spooner dress.
Oh, there we go.
And I'm
matching
sure,
one of my
I
shirts.
was just going to say it's probably matching.
This is
Yeah,
the
my
model
new
number.
Rain
Yeah.
Spooner for Christmas.
How many days now in a row?
About 3,600.
All right. Okay.
That number's growing more and more. I was just
It grows
telling
every
Jeff,
day.
36
It grows every day.
by one. All right, Hal, as always, we're getting special guests. We're super lucky. You want to introduce, who do we have with us today?
Yeah, it's kind of exciting to bring someone that's so vital in our community, the CEO of the San Luis Obispo Chamber of Commerce, Jim Dantona. Jim, thanks for joining us.
Such a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, this will be fun for us. So why don't you take a moment and just kind of talk about a little bit about what you do and what the Chamber means for our community? I know it's an open-ended question, but yeah.
Yeah, well, it's so interesting. If you asked a bunch of people what does a Chamber of Commerce do, you would get 99 answers, most of which is, I think you're part of government, right? And it's not.
Right.
We are a nonprofit organization funded entirely out of the private sector, businesses as members. And so our job really is to be kind of the promoter, the voice for the business community, and trying to help organizations, companies make their way in San Luis Obispo, right? There's challenges. And so whether it's meeting other business owners, I'll tell you, I'm just celebrating 6 years being here. I've never been in a place where relationships are more important to doing business. And so one of the things that the San Luis Obispo Chamber is about, right, is building that connection and networking. But one of the lesser parts that we're known for is our ability to be the voice of business to government. There's lots of challenges. We're in California. There's no shortages of challenges that government poses to our business community. And so our job is also to be that voice, show up, talk to our local city government, our county government, our state government, our federal government, and work with those elected officials to try and help them understand the challenges that our businesses are facing. So we spend all day, all night working on either building connection or trying to help create a good environment for our business community.
Right.
And you have a background in the government side of things, right?
Yeah, I come out of that shady side. No, I spent 15 years in the city of Los Angeles working for elected officials. I was a chief of staff. Also worked on land use planning, economic development issues. It's where I first learned of the impacts of chambers.
Right.
I was down there because I would work with them consistently to try and create legislation to either help them or mitigate legislation that was coming that was going to create challenges. So, that was actually my job leading right up to being in the Chamber of Commerce was in politics. And I think it's given me a great background and knowledge of how to work with government so that our business community gets a loud voice at the table.
Right. Well, and I think sometimes people forget, the business owners and the operators are community members, and so it's hopefully for everyone's best interest, we can keep everything aligned. So that's always a interesting fine line to walk. What would you say the most important thing that maybe the chamber does that maybe the general community who's not a member or not involved would not be aware of?
Yeah. Well, I think the key part, I think the chambers have always been infamous for mixers, right? And knowing how everybody show up to a place and network with each other. But the advocacy side is really where people don't understand the value of what we do. As we talk, we're right here talking about the issues of real estate. Housing got to be one of the top challenges that our community faces. And not because we need 1 billion more people, but we need a workforce, right? We have a great asset in Cal Poly that's here. We have people that want to come here and start businesses. and they just can't do it. So our job in advocacy is to go tell government, look, we don't want to change the culture. We don't want to change the feel of San Luis Obispo, but we need to find a way to do some of those things to provide housing, whether it's affordable, market rate, all the levels of housing we need, in order to keep an economy going that allows us to keep this place so wonderful.
Yeah.
And I think that's the part that most folks don't understand that we do. And I again, maybe I'm biased because I come out of that side of work,
Right.
but I think it's probably one of the most important things we do, since there's so many ways to connect with people today, whether it's social media, networking, certainly face-to-face. San Luis Obispo is that place where people want to meet you face-to-face. And it's so wonderful because they're so warm and welcoming. But we got to do this other piece to make sure we move forward.
If you read and look at, like you say, social media and the media, the mainstream media, it wouldn't take you long when you read about the economy of California to run across an article that says that the government is not friendly to business in California. How would you respond to that? And are those things you work on at the chamber?
Yeah, well, I think it's fair from a state level, certainly. I mean, I look at what the state does daily, what legislation's getting passed, and I think business's voice is getting lost. We have great advocates in Sacramento, like the California Chamber of Commerce, who we work with hand in hand. But when you look at what the state does, they keep making it challenging. One of our top industries, right? Agriculture.
Right.
They are making it incredibly difficult to continue to do the work of agriculture in our state. And that then, of course, translates down to our community directly. Right. So that's one big piece where I say, yep, we got to go up and do battle in Sacramento. What I do appreciate at the local level is, because we talked about how the business owner and the elected, I mean, our community is so close knit. Those elected officials actually know the business owner who's having the struggle, right? And so that goes across pretty easy, even to elected officials you might assume wouldn't be business friendly.
Yeah.
They get it because they know their business owner right next door, or themselves are business owners, right?
Yeah.
And that's an amazing part, which I truly love, that I didn't have as an experience in Los Angeles.
We're pretty lucky here that you can put a face on something, and it does make a difference. Even in our small real estate world, sometimes a seller and a buyer, and they don't know who that person is, but if they have a sense, like a lot of people Google their potential buyers or sellers too, and it's very interesting. But once they have a little meeting, go, oh, okay, I really like that person, right? Instead of demonizing them. So I think it's so wonderful we have that in the community, and to say that the face-to-face kind of interactions we have, we just take it for granted because we live in this small place. But I know in my industry, when I talk to other agents, it's not as collegial, or there's not as much cooperation as we have in a smaller community like this. So I'm happy to hear that that's the same experience you have. Right?
Yeah,
So
it's
that's
amazing
cool.
to watch.
Yeah.
Real estate's a blood sport in Southern California, where I was from. Right?
Yeah.
But here, even if you have to do the hard work, you're going to be working with that person tomorrow, the next day.
Yes.
And so there's still that collegial, which is so great, and that permeates every piece of business and community here, nonprofits, all of that.
Yeah.
What do your members tell you that they love the most about our community?
Well, it's pretty easy. It is the most beautiful. I'm biased here. Most beautiful place in California. Certainly one of the top most beautiful places.
I think you'd
in
get 3 votes on that right here.
Yeah.
But even short of that, that's just the outside. But how warm the people are, and when someone's maybe from out of the area because they honked their horn at, no one honks horns here because you're probably going to the same meeting with them. So right? There's a niceness here and a warmth that is really amazing. And once you build those relationships, and I'll say this from the business community, those relationships last because you want to keep them as friends and business customers. So that's something you don't get a lot of, right? When you're in the Bay Area, when you're in LA, when you're in San Diego, it's just so big. There's so many people here. we know everybody. You walk down the street and bam, you're like, hey, you.
So here's something that just popped in my head. It's probably dangerous, but when you think about things being transactional, and you think about big, companies that sell everything online, and you have your local small businesses getting, it's very challenging. What do you guys do about that? Because I love to walk into a store. I'm not a big shopper, but I just love doing that versus some box shows up at your house and somebody opens something up. I don't know. It's just my personal thing.
I know you're exactly right. And I'm not opposed, right, to the internet, but I'll tell you, I always want to go see the thing.
Yeah.
I want to touch the thing. I want to know what I'm getting. I don't want to send it back in a box back in return. I want to be able to know what I'm getting. So first, we always talk about that point, that it's this touch piece of being in the shop, knowing what you're getting, as opposed to, this wasn't what I thought it was, because there's a lot of that. But this was one of those great pieces I was talking about with advocacy. We just finished last month the discussion. We had this buy local bonus program, where the city of San Luis Obispo invested $110,000 of taxpayer money back into our businesses to buy gift cards. So when you came down here and you spent money, you spent over $100, you got a gift card to another vendor. That's incredible. That's not something that happens anywhere else. Yeah. And it happened. It started back when, as the chamber and the city were working together on like, how are we going to get through COVID, right? Retailers were shut down. You couldn't come in. And the city was thoughtful enough on one side and came up with this great idea with us to, what if we encourage folks to come downtown and come shop in the city?
Right.
And that little piece, we just completed our 5th year of doing it. And that little investment, changes the muscle memory of folks, right? That I do want to go down to that shop. I want to head down and grab something at Hand's Gallery. They have some cool stuff over there. I remember seeing that. Like, that kind of thing is really amazing. So it's easier. And everybody who comes into the chamber to get their gift card says the same thing. I wish our community did this.
Right.
But again, back to how special this community is. Wow. Here's government saying, I'm going to buy, invest in my local, because I know that's important to how our community functions.
And we always hear about parking being an issue in downtown San Luis, and they made some concessions on parking fees during the holidays too, didn't they?
Yeah, made certain days free. They did there was obviously a lot of contention over what was happening with parking. So they changed the rate structure, made it a little cheaper, cut it in half really, and then put in these free days during certain times to make it, again, encourage folks to come downtown and see it's not as bad as the talking point is on it. And again, the sad part is people are like, well, it's really hard to park. And because it's popular. It's a great place to be, right? I mean, it's a good and a bad thing, right? Yes, it's hard to find a parking space. Well, that's because it's awesome to be downtown, walking in this great downtown that feels pretty special. And so, it's trying to balance and find the space in there that works for everyone.
It's kind of like Yogi Berra. Nobody goes to that place anymore. It's too crowded. Right?
I love that you knew you had that quote. That is one of my favorites because I get it all the time. I mean, as the chamber, like, what are you doing about parking? There's no parking. I'm like, you got to make it cheaper. I'm like, well, I can't make it cheaper. All the spaces are filled. So I can't fit more. And so then we get into a whole conversation around building new structures. Is that the right? But I think, again, we're trying to create that balance of not too expensive to do it, but it costs money to build these structures that allow our employees to park downtown, people to come shop downtown. And definitely I hear from folks who are have disabled placards, like we should be freeing up spaces on the streets for them, because they need that quick access, as opposed to someone like me who probably could use a walk or two or 10.
Yeah. It's interesting too if you put it in perspective, because we're in a small town. But I was just, if you go to a large shopping mall in a big city, well, guess what? That shopping mall is bigger than our downtown. So if you have to park 3 blocks away, you just went through the JCPenney's and the Macy's to get somewhere else. It's not that big a deal, right? But we're just spoiled, and I'm as guilty as anyone. I would love to park right in front of where I'm going. Right?
All of us would, right? I mean,
pull
it's
right up and go.
Go, boom, pop in. It would be awesome. And to your point is right. I remember, again, coming out of Southern California, I would park at the farthest stall. That would be a 9-mile walk.
Right.
But at least I parked in this parking lot. No, it was a much further walk than if I was down at Marsh and had to go all the way up to Palm, right?
Yeah.
So, and it would be a beautiful walk here as opposed to.
Well, and I know people that complain about the number of people downtown. I kind of like the energy myself. I mean, you're bobbing and weaving and you got lines, but as we were talking beforehand, I remember during COVID, in my office downtown, there's no stores open, there's nobody on the streets. You can go wherever you want, but there's no people there, right? So
it's exactly it, and it's the balance we got to try and find. And that's our job, and to not tilt it so far one way or the other. But I worked in downtown Los Angeles, and after 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, you couldn't find anybody on the street, and it wasn't a place you wanted to be.
Yeah.
From the chamber's perspective, what's the economic outlook for our community?
Well, when you look at, I'm so excited because we got some big things that are happening right now, right? We have Cal Poly. That as an asset just keeps growing. And it's only one of, I think, 4 universities in the state that is growing. And I think it's probably growing the fastest. They just picked up a connection to the Cal Maritime up in Stockton. They're going to now have a giant boat that they'll teach students on. Up in Stockton,
Nice.
And they park a huge boat and teach people how to actually do, like the problem we're having with pilots of airplanes. We're having the same problem with pilots of ships. So not enough.
Oh,
and so
I did not know that.
Cal Maritime is a school up there. And now the Cal State Chancellors, Cal State Board decided to have Cal Poly take it over because they're doing such an amazing job. And then you go to all the tech, engineering, math, these amazing things that Cal Poly's turning out. That gives us an enormous asset to work with in terms of talent available.
When I moved back here in the mid-'90s, we talked about this community being a great place to live, but there weren't many jobs for especially the 20, 30-somethings that were coming out of Cal Poly. If you got a degree at Cal Poly, you had to go somewhere else to get a job. Has that changed in this community?
Sadly, not yet. But what I think is interesting is what Cal Poly saw all of those things happening. And now you have the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, the Hot House, where they are actually leading classes for people to do startups. And the amount of amazing startups coming out of Cal Poly are really amazing. What we got to do now, because we have some amazing getting started all over the place. Now we have to do is create that workforce so that they stay here. Because what they're doing is they're growing to about 20 employees and then maybe have to pop somewhere else to get the bigger workforce. And then you get somebody that comes back after they've struck it really big.
Right.
And they can just we're going wherever we want to.
Yeah, I think, too, what people don't realize when you talk about workforce housing, a lot of people that I know that have kids that have graduated high school, college, to be able to stay here, the housing is an issue because of the expense, right?
Yeah.
And that's not an easy solution.
And it'll never be, because this is the most, again, back to the most beautiful place in California. You have, again, wonderful open spaces around. You want to go hiking, you want to go biking, you want to go surfing, you want to go whatever you want to do.
Yep.
There's everything.
Right.
So it's going to be desirable forever. So it's always going to be a struggle. But if we do it right and we plan for it correctly, we can keep the character and the culture of San Luis while being able to provide some of that new housing. Though I will say that one piece back to Cal Poly students as it continues to grow is they're now doing so much more to put housing on campus so that we're freeing up units, hopefully, for either for sale or for rent or for some other things so that we can add more workforce to our area.
We need places for people to sleep and live,
Yeah, it's so key. So important.
It just came back yesterday. What is today? The first of the month. And boy, our new airport, I was thinking about if we had the old airport. That place was packed. It was unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
But it's still so convenient. everything happens really fast. So we're very fortunate to.
You can add that to the list of things Jim was
Assets.
talking about that makes this place so special, and that's we can get out of here on a plane pretty easily.
Yeah.
We don't have to go to LAX or SFO
and
to get
connect
somewhere.
to everywhere, right? You can go to Dallas, Fort Worth, that gets you to Miami, or you can go to Denver, that gets you to New York City, right? Like, one
Right.
stop, you're getting to all those places. Plus, you get in the whole West. I just came back from Vegas. From there, the flight is so easy. You're in and out.
San Diego, Portland, all those places. Yeah, no, it's
Seattle.
we're lucky. Seattle.
Yeah, you talk about a performing arts center, an airport, and things that no 50,000 person city has in its arsenal. We punch so far above our weight class. That's why I'm honored to do the job I do.
Yeah.
It's so amazing to be here.
Yeah.
Add good wine to that list. That helps too, doesn't it?
Anybody who knows me knows that is one of my favorites, which I keep banging the drum to the local people. I'm like, we have like Napa level wines in our area, right?
I think we've replaced Napa as the best wine in the state.
You really can find, and I think as soon as people find it in the Paso region, the Edna Valley region, whether you like Pinots and Chardonnays or Cabs and blends.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We were once called the
top-notch.
poor man's Napa. I think Napa's now the poor man's San Luis Obispo County.
Well, after those fires they had up north, that was such a tough thing for them. But everybody found San Luis Obispo County on the wine region very
and it's
fast.
not just one. So you got beers and whiskey.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Boy, our conversation's gone downhill too.
It's gotten exciting. I'm excited. So much to try.
Yeah, if you love beer, if you love
hiking,
wine or distilleries.
Whiskeys, you got it all.
You can have all.
So how do you? How is the membership level? Has it changed? The economy goes up and down. What is that like for you guys?
Yeah, COVID did a number on the whole economy of the world, right? So we suffered a bit there, but since kind of coming back, those businesses that survived are stronger. They're investing more in the chamber, knowing the value that we're bringing to folks. We're punching, I think, still over the Central Coast region, we're number one most members, over 1,200 members in our group. And when I was down in LA, the greater LA chamber had 1,400 members. So, to be able to, we were blessed almost a little over 50 years ago by getting a guy named Dave Garth to run this, get this chamber going. And he's made it an institution in the state of California.
That's right. You replaced Dave.
Well, we got Dave 38 years, then Ermina Kareem. Had 6 years. And I just finished 6. So
I'm sorry.
All of us walk in
well.
Dave Garth's shoes. So
But that's amazing. 1,200 members versus 1,400 for LA. Wow.
Yeah.
That just tells you how involved the community is. That's great.
And everybody who's a member tells other members that this is important. Back to the relationship piece.
Right.
You're going to build those relationships. You're going to show up. We have a morning program where we talk about interesting things in the community, similar to all the stuff you're talking about. And we get 200 people in the morning at 7 a.m.
Right.
And I'm always blown away. I'm like, wow, 200 people want to get up at 7 a.m. Or be here by 7 a.m. in order to hear the conversation, which is truly special. You won't find that in a lot of communities.
You always have great speakers.
Hey, well, Jim, we're running short of time. So how would people get in touch with you?
Yeah. So slowchamber.org is our website. I would say the best way, though, is to follow us on our Instagram and Facebook at Slow Chamber, SLO Chamber. We post a lot of great information there about what's happening in the community, what our members are doing, our businesses are celebrating, some of that really interesting stuff, what events are happening. But always on there, you can find our contact. If folks want to email me direct, I'm Jim at slowchamber.org. But it's so connected that, people email, text, everything. Yeah. We're always super interested to find out what's happening, what the concerns are, what the questions are. Because, sometimes people think automatically, oh, they know about this. They're connected to everybody. And it's like, no, we didn't hear about that. We need to hear about those things so that we can continue to be an advocate for our business community. Because, again, without those businesses, without an investment, can we do all the things we want to do?
Right.
Yeah.
Great. Wow.
That's great.
I
know why the chamber loves having you. You got great energy, man.
Yeah.
You got a great voice too. It's perfect.
That's right.
It's perfect
Radio
for the podcast.
voice, huh?
Yeah.
Jeff, you better watch out. We got
I know.
somebody coming for your job.
Jeff's over there skulking. Yeah.
I'll swap you jobs.
New morning
Gladly.
New morning show.
Thank you so much
yeah.
for joining us.
Yeah.
It's such a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jim. We appreciate you being here. We'll put all your information for the SLO Chamber on our description on YouTube, where you can follow us and subscribe, as well as what you do, Jeff. What do you do for us over here?
Oh, we do a little podcast, and you can subscribe. Just look for SLO County Real Estate Podcast with Hal Sweasey. Once you just type in SLO County Real Estate Podcast, it usually pops up.
Yeah,
you don't have to. You don't. I'm sorry, it's a long name, but it's a good. It's a great podcast.
Well, at least it's not San Luis Obispo County Real Estate. There we go. SLO. All right. Again, Jim, once again, thank you so much. Hal Sweasey, John Turner, you guys are amazing. Thank you, everybody that listens to us and watches our ugly mugs on YouTube. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. We'll talk to everybody next week.
Thanks, James.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.